Namaskar, I am Mohan Shanai, son of Adyar Gopalakrishna Shanai. My mother Radha was an ideal Gowda Saraswath Brahman woman. She was an example of a woman in our community for the unique trials and tribulations a woman underwent in the 20th century. Chandrappa was a highly emotional person and felt badly upon his wife's refusal to live with him. Chandrappa returns to Mijar empty-handed. Very highly dejected, he wanders around for a few days and then takes a train to Madras, now Chennai. The British administration in the area had laid railway line in 1910, enabling local citizens to travel from Mangalore to Madras and then further up to Kolkata for education or employment. Chardappa either walked or took a bus to go from Mizar to Mangalore. Then in Mangalore he took a train and went to Madras. Chardappa remembered that one of his distant relatives owned a restaurant in Kakinada. Hoping that he might get employment in the restaurant, he travelled to Kakinada. Chardappa wrote a letter to his parents within a short time. He wrote that he has got a job in a restaurant in Kakinada and please don't worry about me. Radhu did not move from her maternal home to her husband's house in Mizar. Amba, the child, grew up in her maternal grandfather's house in Sampige village. Here in Kakinada, Chardappa learnt restaurant business and within 2 years' time opened his own restaurant. He named his restaurant Krishna Bhavan. His restaurant business grew in leaps and bounds day by day. Chardappa earned a substantial amount of money and amassed wealth. Yet he did not stop his practice of writing letters to his mother and father back in Mizar. In his letters to his wife in Sampige village, he repeatedly appealed to her to come to Kakinada with the baby. He insisted that he still loved her and his baby, Amba, and that he wanted to take care of them in his new home in Kakinada. He promised them that he will see that they will suffer no problems in Kakinada and that they will live very happily. Radhu's parents and other people in the village advised Radhu not to break away from her marriage because only Chardappa can ultimately look after her and her baby. Her friends and relatives asked her to join her husband in Kakinada without delay since Chardappa only can be her hope for the future. Finally, Radhu and Amba travelled to Kakinada in the year 1918. Amba's story continues in Kakinada from then on. During all this time, no one could gather any information on Chandri, the daughter of Indra, the teacher. Everyone forgot her in a short while. But for Radhu, the fact that her husband had eloped with another woman while she had been confined once upon a time was a constant reminder of his treachery, and she, although tried very hard to forget it, as a bad dream, she could not take it out from her mind. Therefore, there was always a clash and an argument between Radu and Charadappa. About this time, Amba was 3 years old and her 4th birthday was celebrated in Kakinada in her father's home with pomp and gaiety and by waving arati, as is the tradition in India. About 100 people were invited to a grand feast. In Kakinada, Radu gave birth to 2 more children. The first one was a girl child named Kitty. The second one was a boy. He was named Mukunda. Radu looked after her 3 children well and sent them to the school. There were not many schools which admitted girl children. Amba studied up to 2nd standard in a Telugu medium school. Her sister Kitty studied up to 5th standard. Mukunda studied up to 8th standard. Meanwhile, Kamala, a widow with 3 children, all naughty boys, was struggling to shelter and feed them in Mangalore. The second of the 3 children, Gopalakrishna, had suffered a lot in trying to complete his 8th standard, first in Gurpur and then in Mangalore. He was 14 years old when he finished his 8th standard. When Gopalakrishna completed his 8th standard, his mother Yamuna wanted him to stop going to school. She said that it was not possible for her to support his educational expenses anymore. Gopala, tu ani sikche nakre, kahin puni kaam pad re bala. That is what she said in Konkani language. Konkani is our mother tongue. Gopalakrishna was aware of the difficulties and struggle his mother had to undergo to educate him. Therefore, he did not insist on going to school any further. Therefore, he jumped into the self-employed street vendors' stream. He began to buy various goods at their production points and carry them to the markets to sell them at a higher rate and thus earn a small profit to pay for the expenses at home. The main point of purchase was Bandar Dock in Mangalore. The goods were loaded on bullock carts and sold to shop owners at different places. Often he had to rent small stalls in the local market and sell his merchandise in retail to customers on a daily basis. In between, Gopalakrishna joined retail grocery stores as a salesman and worked hard for over 10 hours a day. There was only a couple of holidays each month and no vacation. Work in these grocery stores was back-breaking and lasted for 10 hours or more a day. He worked in Karkal Lakshman's grocery store located in Hampankatta in Mangalore in the early 1920s. Yamuna, the widow, worked hard to earn enough to make both ends meet with so many members living with her. Eldest brother Ramachandra, Gopalakrishna, Padmanabha and Yamuna, along with child widow Netravati and nephew Madhav, son of Gauri, the second sister, lived together. Netravati, the eldest daughter, was a child widow and maintained a few cows and buffaloes in the rented premises with the living quarters and the cattle pen side by side. It was a hard work for Netravati to look after her dairy business, but she became financially independent because of it.